Reddit is full of confessions and experiences too strange to ignore. Hidden among jokes and casual posts are stories that stay with you long after you read them. Stories that feel too real, too close to home. Tonight, I've gathered 3 of the scariest true horror stories ever posted to Reddit. Each one sounds ordinary at first. A dorm stairwell, a cheap motel, a camping trip. But the ordinary doesn't stay ordinary for long. This is No Sleep Tonight. The Man in the Stairwell. It was my second semester in college, and I lived in one of those massive concrete dorms that looked more like a prison than a place for students. Every hallway was identical, every door painted the same shade of dull brown. I'd been in the library until almost 2 a.m., half asleep and carrying an armful of books. The elevators in my building were notoriously slow, so I pushed open the heavy fire door and stepped into the stairwell. That's when I noticed how cold it felt inside. The air conditioning didn't reach the stairwell, but the air was icy, and every footstep echoed far too loudly. At first, it was only my footsteps. Then, as I reached the 3rd landing, I heard something else, another set of footsteps. I stopped. So did they. The stairwell spiraled downward, all concrete and shadow, but when I leaned over the railing, no one was there. I told myself it was just my imagination. I kept walking, a little faster. The footsteps came again, perfectly matching mine. By the time I reached my floor, I was nearly running. I shoved through the door, heart pounding, and hurried down the hallway to my room. I slid my keycard, shut the door, and leaned against it. Safe, or so I thought. The footsteps started again, heavy, slow, right outside my door. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. Just the empty hallway. But the sound was undeniable. They stayed there for minutes, pacing back and forth. Then they stopped. The silence was worse than the footsteps. I didn't sleep that night. And to this day, I've never used that stairwell again. The mirror in the motel. I'd been driving all day. The highway stretched endlessly, my eyes gritty from staring at the road. By the time I saw the neon motel sign flickering in the distance, I was too tired to care what kind of place it was. The lobby smelled of stale coffee and cigarette smoke. The desk clerk barely looked up from his phone as he handed me a keycard. The carpet in the hallway was worn, and the hum of a vending machine echoed off the walls. When I opened the door to my room, the first thing I noticed was the mirror. A massive wall mirror directly across from the bed, reflecting me instantly. I thought it was odd, but shrugged it off. Motels always had quirks. The room smelled faintly of bleach, like they were trying to cover something up. The sheets were stiff. The air conditioner rattled, but I didn't care. I just needed sleep. Lying in bed, I stared at the mirror. Something wasn't right. It tilted forward just slightly, like it wasn't flush against the wall. Once I noticed it, I couldn't stop staring. I told myself I was imagining things. To prove it, I tossed a sock at it. It hit the glass, fell, and for a moment, I swore the sound wasn't solid. It was hollow. I tried to laugh it off. I brushed my teeth, scrolled my phone, anything to distract myself. But when I turned off the lights, the unease grew. The mirror loomed in the darkness, reflecting the faint glow from the alarm clock. Around 2 a.m., I heard it, a faint creak, like a chair shifting. I froze. My heart pounded. I turned on my phone flashlight and crept toward the mirror. Up close, I angled the light along the edge. My stomach dropped. Behind the frame, there was a gap, a hollow space, and in that space, I saw it, a chair facing directly at the mirror. The air felt heavy, suffocating. My skin prickled. I didn't check further. I didn't even pack. I grabbed my bag and ran, leaving the TV on and the lights blazing. Hours later, in another town, I pulled into a gas station to calm down. I looked up motels with two-way mirrors. Turns out, it's real. Some places actually set up observation rooms. I never called the motel. I never reported it. But to this day, I can't sleep in a room with a mirror across from the bed, because now I know someone could have been sitting there watching me the whole time. The camping stranger. Camping had always been my escape. No phones, no traffic, just the quiet of the woods. That summer, my best friend and I decided to hike out to a remote spot, far from any trails. We wanted the kind of solitude you couldn't find anywhere else. We built a small fire, roasted marshmallows, and laughed until the stars blanketed the sky. The night air was cool, the forest alive with distant chirps and rustles. Eventually, we crawled into our tent and drifted off. Sometime after 3 a.m., I woke up. At first, I wasn't sure why. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate crunches in the leaves. Not an animal's quick shuffle. Human footsteps. I held my breath, straining to listen. The steps moved around the tent, circling us. I nudged my friend awake. We whispered, debating. Could it be a deer, a raccoon? But the steps were too steady, too heavy. They made a full circle, then stopped right by my head. Silence. The kind of silence that presses against your ears. I reached for the zipper on the tent flap, hesitating. Finally, I pulled it just an inch and shone my flashlight out. Nothing, just endless trees. I zipped it shut again, heart racing. We stayed awake the rest of the night, whispering, listening, jumping at every sound. At dawn, we stumbled outside, exhausted. That's when we saw them. Footprints, bare human footprints in the dirt circling the tent. Clear as day, but here's what froze us in place. There were no prints leading in, only circling, then leading away. Someone had been there the whole time, watching, waiting. We packed in silence, barely speaking on the hike back. We told ourselves it was some prank, maybe a lost hiker. But weeks later, I read about people disappearing from campsites near that same area. No signs of struggle, just gone. Even now, when I try to sleep outdoors, I'd remember those prints. Perfect circles around our tent, and the knowledge that whoever it was had already been there before we arrived. These were 3 scary true stories shared on Reddit. What makes them unforgettable isn't monsters or ghosts. It's how ordinary they seemed at first. A stairwell, a motel room, a night under the stars. Places we've all been. And yet, in a moment, they became something else entirely. Would you have opened the tent? Would you have stayed in that motel room? Would you have walked through that stairwell? If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe to No Sleep Tonight for more true horror every single week. And remember, it's never the shadows you should fear most. It's what hides just beyond them.